video I made today. You'll have some fun with it when you look at speeds.
By the way, I see Chris and Jim Gould are on. Chris is going to be speaking to the Sarasota Technology User Group on Wednesday evening, Eastern time. You got to sign on at 6, and it starts at 6:30. Chris is going to be talking about Snapseed, and you're welcome to come. I'm going to put a link where you have to be registered for the meeting, and I'll put the link in the chat box if you're interested.
You'll need to put
Is that again,
link
Hewie?
You'll want to put that link in later too, because people who come in late don't get the link.
Don't get to see it. Yeah, I
Don't
know.
get to see the chat. So thanks. Yeah, we're looking forward to that. We say Chris is doing this, but you all know that I do all the work, right? She's not here right now. She's in hair and makeup right now.
Well, you and Bob were the last two, I think, that did the live meetings before COVID.
Yeah.
For our group. So
I just want to make a general comment. You started off talking about age, and what it dawned on me not that long ago, appreciating being 83, that I can appreciate all of the science technology changes that I've been lucky and fortunate to experience. It's really, I don't know how to describe it, but it's really amazing to be able to go back and remember the first cell phone and first, computer, Commodore, 2064, whatever it is. It's thinking back and where I am today. It's really that's what you appreciate being alive.
absolutely. I remember as a really young kid talking with my cousin. We were talking about age and how long we were going to live and so on. Just general, it wasn't a deep discussion or anything, but I remember saying that we both hoped to live to the turn of the century, and we would be old because we'd be old then, and that was that was 22 years ago. But I never thought I'd live to 80, and I'm here now, and I think I'm still alive.
Who remembers the grind phone?
Oh yeah, and
Never had one of those. Never had one of those, but we did have one that didn't have a dial on it. You picked it up and talked to an operator who connected you to whoever you wanted to talk to.
We moved into a ranger station up in Idaho. Elk City, Idaho. Some of you guys know where it is. And we had one of these, and I started a range fire on my stove. So I ran to the phone and I rang and I rang and I rang and I rang for help. Nobody answered. And I went outside the door and yelled at the ranger, and he come over and put the fire out for me, pulled the plug on the fire extinguisher so it'd work, which I hadn't figured out. And I told him what I'd done. He says, well, what long's your ring? Because I can ring.
How many were on your party line?
Yeah, well, it was all a party line. There were only about eight people with phones in the town.
I remember the 4-party line, and your ring, there were 4 rings, and one of them was only for you. The other 3 were for somebody else. So there was a single ring, a double ring, 3 rings, and a 4 ring. And of course, all 4 parties were listening typically.
If you talk too long, they tell you to get off.
Yeah, you'd say, hey, Mary, hang up.
I remember 1950, 56, 57, my parents moved into the new house. And I sort of remember, I was awful young then, but we were the first house on the street to have rotary dialed phones. Or not, maybe I don't remember it was rotary, but to have our own phone number. Everyone else had a party line.
Yeah.
And no one could figure out why you would ever want anything other than the party line. My dad, of course, was quite progressive and thought, this is nuts. We can get this. It's let's move ahead. but everyone else on the street stayed with their party line as long as they could until they discontinued them because it was cheap.
Well,
My,
I'll take on the role as being the baby of the group. I'm only 57.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa, but you have a heart of a senior. You're not a, that's that's not the right word. But your mind and your thoughts are with seniors, right?
Yes.
Right, Drew? There you go.
You know, you are all youngsters.
Thank you. Thank you
Can you hear
so
me?
much.
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, I'll be 90 on the 21st of July.
Wow.
Okay.
Congratulations.
I remember many, many things.
I remember when.
I was 90 in February.
Wow.
congratulations.
Yeah.
We are a seniors group, I think.
Got a bunch of seniors here. This is great.
How many of you remember the Wright brothers?
Personally?
My dad worked in their bicycle shop, and I knew Wilbur
Oh my.
or Orville Wright.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Do you still drive?
Yes, I do.
Do you just
Very
drive
carefully.
cars or drive people crazy?
Oh, I
Oh.
drive still even at night. I see quite well even at night.
Oh, great.
It's
That's
all
better than me.
genes, right, Ron? All in the genes.
I was telling Bob earlier today, there was a show about a year ago, and I can't remember it was a researcher who researched and looked at octogenarians, people over the age of 100, and looked at, and this was the largest research that had been done. There'd several thousand people in different countries. And this individual researcher had interviewed all these people. And of course, the big question was, what of course allowed you, what was the common theme of all these people? Were they vegetarian? Were they non-smokers? Did they jog or exercise? And really none of that was true. There were tall, short, big, small, smokers, non-smokers, very few vegetarians. It all ended up, it was genetics. It all ended up, the only thing that they all had in common was genetics, which I guess you could probably expect, but that was sort of interesting. So if your mother was tall and your father was tall, most likely you're going to be tall, right?
Yep.
It's all relative. I'm head and shoulders above my parents, and I'm a 6'5", and they were 5'11".
Yeah, but they were tall for their age, and they probably fed you well, eh?
Well, I don't remember not eating.
So when I went to school, they told us that it skips a generation. So you were paired to your grandparents. And I was 6'5" before I got hurt. And my grandfather, he was 6'4". And my parents were, my mother was 5'8", and my father was 6 foot.
You know, my grandfather died right after I was born. And I was told he was over 6 foot tall, but my grandmother was 5'1".
Wow.
That's the long and short of it.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. I mean, I've been a hospital patient since I was in my 20s, and my father, who passed away at 92, the only time he ever went to the hospital was to die and to have his varicose veins removed. I'm
In
pissed.
that order?
Not in that order.
Very funny, Helen. Very good.
But I am pissed. My mom passed at 54.
The secret to staying young is always hanging out with people a few years older.
That'll work.
It's getting harder and harder to do.
Yeah.
Well, I go by the AA routine of one day at a time. Whatever day I'm here is a good day.
And Drew, the secret to going old is not to die young.
And stay on the green side of the
Write that down,
grass.
Bob.
Yeah, stay on the green side of the grass.
Yep. Well, I tell all my students that the secret to longevity is to keep breathing.
That helps.
We're not-
And the secret to computers working is smoke. when the smoke escapes, they stop working.
When I was young in my 60s, I used to tell a 80-some-year woman lived across the street that could I have some of her blood? I want to have a blood transfusion because she was like 87 or 88. And then I had an aunt, my mother's older sister, and I would be at her house and I'd be talking to someone on her phone in the kitchen, and she was, not real close. And somebody would ask me a question, ask your aunt this, and she would answer. That's how good her hearing was. The phone was on my ear, but she could hear the question. And my hearing's not that good.
That's a bit like my grandmother, who was a professional seamstress when she was young. She was legally blind. She couldn't see very much, but she could spot a piece of lint on your shoulder from about 100 yards.
Oh, well. It's
Well,
always,
again,
go ahead.
I'm going to post something in the chat box for those who are just recently arrived.
Does everyone remember the first year they used a computer?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
First year, yeah.
I bought my first home computer in 1978.
I used my first computer in 1959.
I was
First
1965. It was a mainframe.
Well, mine was
Did
not a
you own that?
mainframe. It had 2,000 words of memory. They were about 20 bits long. And I think it was called an LGP 20 or an LGP 30, something like that. Royal McBee made it.
I bought my IBM desk clone in '83. Was you assembled. One of the places where they built them from board and you specified. I still have the receipt with the dot matrix printer and 10 megabyte of hard drive was $3,800.
Well, my best birthday present ever was when my kids saved up enough money and bought me a VIC 20, and then I made a deal. That was about $400. Then I made a deal with the store that they would take it back and give me a full refund when the Commodore 64 came out, which I then got. That was about over $800. And I used that for quite a while. I also had, before that, I had a Sinclair, I think, and something else. And my input-output device was an old teletype machine.
Never got an Amiga after your Commodore 64?
I got an Amiga eventually, but I only used that for because it had really good MIDI, and I actually paid almost $800 for the software for the music for it. But it also had a PC emulator in it.
Yeah. Well, I was waiting for the Amiga, but they never wrote the software that I needed because I was writing and publishing a book, and I needed the computer to format it. And it couldn't be done with the Amiga. They didn't have the software. I finally had to go to a Mac because they had the software for it.
All right.
I was amazed at what they could do with a Commodore 64. I mean, I had spreadsheet, word processor, all kinds of stuff. And of course, talk about fast booting. It booted almost instantly because the OS was all on the in the firmware.
Yeah. That was a great machine.
I experienced the Model 28 teletype. I was the ham operator in the 60s, and that's how we communicated with teletype. We used it called RIDI, and you could go, wherever the link was established, communications based on atmospheric conditions, and that thing would run. And I had it in an apartment living room. And it was an oiled machine. You had to keep oiling this Model 28. So when you came home from work, you smelled the oil of the Western Union Model 28 teletype.
All right. Sorry, guys, I got to interrupt. We got a show to run here. I'm going to mute everybody and we will get going.
And you're going to put the link for the premiere in your chat, right?
It's already done.
Thank you.
Welcome everyone, Tech for Senior. It is July the 4th. Welcome, and hopefully everyone's having a great July the 4th weekend. It is episode 119, Hewie. We're almost at 120. Hey, not bad for a couple old guys, eh?
Oh, yeah. Who would have thought we were going to last this long?
Exactly. So when Captain Vancouver came to the West Coast and first discovered Vancouver Island and sailed up by my house, he looked out and said, this is the most, and he stayed here the winter and said, this is the most desolate place in the world. And he, and there was an area, of course, a big inland waterway called Desolation Sound, and it was named after that comment. Well, this morning I got up and it was cold, it was raining, it was overcast, and it was absolutely a miserable day and the most desolate place in the world. So we're not having a good, on the West Coast, we're not having a warm, sunny July the 4th. It is really a miserable day out. I guess everybody on the West Coast is probably experiencing the same. Anyway, we are appreciative of everyone being here. We have 53 hardy souls that have actually come to listen to us today, Hewie. That's pretty good, I think. And yeah,
absolutely. That's
yeah,
great.
And we even have a premiere service for everyone for today that I've put the links in the chat, and I'll continue to do so. Dewey's going to talk on streaming services part 2. Hewi's going to talk on Windows 11 features again, and we're going to try and figure out if you were right. And I'm going to be talking on mopping your floors with a robotic vacuum. So all sorts of things to talk about today on our premiere service that will start at 1/2 the hour. For those of you who want to listen to us again this week, on Thursday, of course, we have Tech for Senior Live. And we will be we'll be having a great show this coming Thursday. We had a really good show last week, so that's an exciting time. And that, of course, is podcasted out to our podcast service. So if you want to listen to us on a podcast, that's great as well. We have next week, of course, we have a really special guest. Of course, it will be Chris Gould talking on Google Photos and new features. Lots of things have happened since Chris talked last time. Now Jim's of course listening and said he's going to be here as well because he does all the work. You heard him talk about that. Chris, I don't know if you heard that earlier.
Okay, she's coming now. Be quiet.
Okay. We won't talk. So we're all excited about that. So that's going to be an upcoming show next week, which and we're going to devote about 30 minutes of the show to that. So we look forward to learning all the new features of Google Photos, which of course they just keep rolling out and rolling out and rolling out.
And bring your questions.
And bring your questions. We'll have questions as well. Also, then following that, the following week, will be on the 18th. Of course, Mike Ungerman will be back with part 3 of solar energy for your house, and he's actually working on part 4 as well. So we have lots of things coming up, including a great show for you today. We also record this, and it records this to our YouTube channel, and it is also being broadcast live to YouTube right now. So that's what our plans are today. We'll get going, and I wanted to introduce everyone here, all our staff. Hewie, of course, had a very special day yesterday, and we want to wish you a happy birthday, even though you're only 50.
Yeah, I wish. 30 years ago.
30 years ago. Well, I just didn't want to tell everybody how old you are.
No, I appreciate that. I did get a lot of well wishes and birthday wishes on Facebook and by email and by a couple of those services that they put together all these little cute videos, and it was a fun day, and I thank everybody for the well wishes.
And it's also my birthday today. And I say I'm 48 backwards.
Well done, Murray. Well done. And Bob, speaking of a young fella, how the heck are you doing?
Just fine.
Mhm.
Just another day.
And are you doing anything special for the 4th of July?
The flag went out this morning, and I kind of have a background that celebrates the 4th of July.
Yeah, that's the big the balloon
Yep.
balloon what's it called again? The
Well, Balloon Fiesta for us here
Right.
in Mexico is the end of September.
Right, so that's coming up.
Yep.
Right. Can you actually see them from your house?
Yeah, with binoculars, I can.
Okay.
With the naked eye, they're tiny, tiny little specks.
Oh, okay. And of course, Ray Baxter is back. We missed Ray last week, although I think I did. Ray, I don't know if you saw last week's show. Did I do a good job? I played everything like you told me to and got it all done.
I did. In fact, it was so good. I thought you were going to be replacing me going forward. I was a little worried.
Did you have a good time, camping?
We had a wonderful time. I'll talk a little bit about it later, but we're up in the north rim of the Grand Canyon. And for those folks that have only been to the south rim, the north rim is worth the extra drive. Beautiful.
Excellent. Excellent. So you're back now and ready to, you're recharged and ready to roll.
I guess I'm ready to roll. I don't know about recharged. Camping takes a lot out of you.
It does, eh? Okay. And of course, Bill James, how the heck are you?
Doing great, thank you.
Do you have any special plans for today?
We're going to grill some this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't get too terribly hot.
Mm-hmm.
Right now it's pretty comfortable, but it might get up into the 90s.
Oh, really? So that's going to be warm for you.
Yeah, but that's kind of all the plans that we have.
All right. All right. Great. Well, I think that's everything. I haven't missed anybody. No, that's good. So I'm glad everyone's having a good time. I'm hopefully you're all using your watches or phones to tap and pay and get your and have some fun with them. As we spent a lot of time talking about Google Pay, Samsung Pay, and Fitbit Pay. If you I read an interesting article yesterday of the trials and tribulations Google has with their Google Pay system. And as with any large company, they've had their ups and downs and certainly retain. You think everyone would just want to go and work for Google. But the article I just posted over on our Facebook page, Google loses 2 executives, one for messaging and workplace, the other for payments and accounts, which of course is Google Pay. And it's a very interesting article to read about the difficulties that Google has had implementing the pay services that they have. And so I just note that for everyone, if you want to have a look at that and read it, it makes for very, very interesting reading. All right, let's get rolling here. We have a big show for you. Bob, are you ready to get going?
I'm hoping to be ready to get going as soon as I get everything in order. And that's the wrong thing to share. Come on. Here is the Avast Security News Roundup for the week ending July 1st, 2022. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and get involved. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission charges Mirror Trading International with $1.7 billion fraud. The CFTC describes the case as its largest ever fraud scheme case involving Bitcoin. It alleged MTI's key figure, Cornelius Johannes Steinberg, accepted 29,421 Bitcoins from 23,000 Americans, and even more through the World for a commodity pool scheme he wasn't licensed to run. Victims of the scheme believe they were investing their Bitcoin in a high-tech investment club to grow your Bitcoin. Charging documents said, citing MTI's statements, Steinberg allegedly said MTI's algorithm created passive income with 10% returns a month. Referring friends and family yielded a bonus, the documents said. Read more at CoinDesk at the link listed. Facial recognition in Oz. Despite concerns from privacy advocates, Australia is currently the only democracy in the world that uses facial recognition technology to aid COVID-19 containment procedures. Police ensure that Western Australian citizens are following the 7-day quarantine rule by sending periodic text messages that require the quarantined person to send a response in the form of a selfie within 15 minutes. The police then use GPS tracking and facial recognition tech to determine if the person is really at home. If they are not, the police show up at the door to issue a citation. Avast security evangelist Louis Carones believes the ends here do not justify the means. Privacy is a right, he commented. Being the only democratic government in the world using facial recognition to control and restrict your citizens' movements is a clear warning that something is wrong. Meanwhile, the Australian Human Rights Commission has called for a moratorium on facial recognition tech until Australia has laws in place to regulate its use. For more on this story, see the BBC. Zuo rat attacks home office routers. Researchers believe a sophisticated malware dubbed Zuo rat may be the product of nation-state hackers, given its range of capabilities and advanced stealth. The remote access Trojan has been observed since the end of 2020, and it has infected small home office routers made by Cisco, Netgear, Asus, and Dark Tech. Zuo rat gets installed by exploiting unpatched vulnerabilities in the Soho devices. Then it is able to enumerate all devices connected to that router and collects the DNS lookups and network traffic they send and receive. Fortunately, like most router malware, Zuo rat cannot survive a reboot, so restarting the device should remove the initial infection. For more, see Ars Technica. You may also find my video on modem advice helpful. Just follow the link listed. Dragon Bridge targets rare earth mining companies. The Dragon Bridge Group, known to promote the political interests of the People's Republic of China, seems to be working to disrupt rare earth suppliers and processors outside of China by spreading misinformation about them on social media. Experts believe the campaign is fueled by the drive to keep China in the dominant market position of rare earth exports. The rare earth market provides essential components for electronics, circuit boards, and batteries. The U.S. 2022 Defense Production Act, Title III, has recently been signed by Joe Biden to encourage domestic production of rare earth minerals, lessening the reliance on imports from other countries. The companies targeted by Dragon Bridge are large enough to threaten China's dominant position. For more, see ZDNet. U.S. State Department gets more proactive on cyber threats. The State Department Bureau of Intelligence and Research released a new cybersecurity strategy this week meant to create a more proactive culture when it comes to finding and fixing vulnerabilities. This is a comprehensive approach to shifting from a reactive cybersecurity posture to a proactive one where we're constantly hunting for potential threats in our environment rather than just waiting for alerts to fire, and then we're investigating, commented Assistant Secretary of State Brett Holmgren. The new strategy involves migrating to the cloud, prioritizing and leveraging new technologies, and deploying real-time threat-based security functions. See Cyberscoop for more. The World Wide Web Consortium strikes a blow for digital freedom. W3C announced it was overruling the objections of Apple, Google, and Mozilla and approving W3C's decentralized identifiers, DIDs, 1.0 as a W3C recommendation, often described as the fundamental building block of decentralized identity. DIDs are now cryptographically verifiable identifiers that enable peer-to-peer connection between any two parties without requiring a central registrar or intermediary. This creates a private and secure channel between those two parties where data and communications can be exchanged, without the risk of any third parties being able to see or correlate that activity. Notably, yesterday's decision makes the DID the first identifier approved as a W3C standard since the URL. This milestone is especially meaningful for Avast and our customers because it will tear down the walls of the castles of cryptography and make the riches of digitally signed and encrypted data available to everyone, everywhere. Read the whole article at the link listed. This week's must-read on the Avast blog. Earlier this month, several European mayors received deepfake video calls from an impersonator of Vitaly Klitschko, the mayor of Kiev. These mayor-to-mayor video calls are a warning to us all to not accept anything without some proper vetting, especially when it comes to well-known individuals. Read the article at the link listed. And that wraps up this week's Avast Security News Roundup. Stay safe, stay secure, and I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye. Actually, I'll see you again in a second as soon as I change over to the next video. Cookie banners and what to do about them. The wrong thing to do is to hit the button that simply says, I accept. The right thing to do is to look at the cookie settings. Select it, and now you have choices of what cookies to accept and what cookies you want to turn off. Almost all sites, in order to make them usable, have necessary cookies. These cookies are necessary for the website to function and can't be switched off in our system. They are usually only set in response to actions made by you, which amount to a request for services, such as setting your privacy preferences, logging in or filling in forms, and you get to set your browser to block or alert you about these cookies. But some parts of the site may not work if you do that. Necessary cookies are something I always allow. Next, we come into performance cookies. And personally, I allow necessary cookies. I don't allow performance cookies. Turn it off. And then you have the social sharing cookies. That's where they share your information with all of their buddies, and you will get bombarded from all over the place. So social sharing, third-party cookies, thank you, but no thanks. Turn it off. You've now made an educated decision of what to allow and what not to allow as far as cookies on that website. Save the information, and the next time you visit that website, you're not going to see that cookie banner. Stay safe, stay secure. I hope that helps. And have a happy 4th of July.
Thanks, Bob. That's great.
Mhm.
They now those that those settings get saved, and each time you go back to that page, then you don't have to get that message again, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, because they save it.
Yep.
Okay,
Does that work
great.
across all browsers?
Yeah, because it's a website specific. The cookie banner is specific to a website, and it's the website that saves that information.
Okay, thanks, Bob. All right, let's get. I want to get on with the next video I have. This was I did this as a result of a question we had from some of our viewers. We had about a month ago. Someone asked, "Should I buy or rent a cable modem?" And I thought, I didn't think we give a very good answer to the response, so I made this video, and I want you can have a look at it. If there's any questions, we can deal with them in the Q&A. Let's get going here. Is it better to purchase or rent a cable modem? Of course it's better to purchase it. Who wants to rent one every month and pay $10? Much better to purchase it and save a lot of money in the future. Hold on. That's what we've been saying for the past 10 years. But is that true in 2022? Let's have a look at that. It's Ron Brown with Tech for Senior, where we make videos to help seniors understand technology. Now, if you'd like to be notified when we make a new video, just go down to the bottom, go to the notification button. Click that and that little bell, and we'll send you a personal notification when we make a new video. It is all free. So let's look at, should you purchase or rent a cable modem? Well, traditionally, we've always taught it's better to purchase your modem instead of paying that monthly rental fee. In fact, the US government passed a law about 2 years ago that required the cable companies to allow you to use your own products and devices for free. They couldn't actually charge you a rental fee if you had your own devices. Well, they then charged an administration fee, and it was the same thing. That legislation really hasn't gone very far, and you'll still be paying something on a monthly basis. So the question really is it better to purchase or rent your cable modem? Now, there are many things that you're going to have to consider. What is DOCSIS 3? What is DOCSIS 3.1? What's Wi-Fi 6? Because most of these devices you get from your cable company now are cable modems and routers. So what about Wi-Fi 6? Lots of things to think about, lots of costs if you're going to go and purchase it. But what I want to do today is I want to look at 2022 and why you might reconsider what we've always taught in the past. So let's look at some unique things that are happening and some advice I can give you. So what we're going to talk about today is your television cable modem. Now, you need to be aware that there are different modems for different services. So if you have a DSL service, then you'll have a DSL modem. If you have a fiber optic service, then you'll have a fiber optic modem. Now, those are rarely purchased and mostly provided by your service provider. However, in the case of a television cable modem, you can purchase these and use them yourself. Now, most of the ones sold today by the service providers are combination. They're a cable modem and a router. So you have to decide if this is fitting your particular unique circumstances. Today we're going to talk about whether you should purchase a television cable modem. And that is something we've always taught in the past is a good idea. So we have to look at 2022, is it worth buying your own cable modem for your television service? And we're going to have a look at that today and see what is the best service for you. Now, if you're planning on purchasing a cable modem from, let's say, Best Buy, the first thing you'll notice when you go there is you'll see this thing called DOCSIS. What the heck is DOCSIS? And you'll see that there are some cable modems for around $60 that have DOCSIS 3.0. And then you'll see the more expensive ones up to $200 or $300, and those may have DOCSIS 3.1. So what is DOCSIS? Well, DOCSIS is the software that your cable company uses to transmit the signal to you at your home. I guess it's like Windows 10 on a PC. But there's nothing you can do to upgrade this. DOCSIS is a standard in which the cable companies use. It is in the modem, and you cannot upgrade a DOCSIS 3 to 3.1. You can't upgrade an existing modem to that. So why would you want to choose one or the other? And this really comes down to speed and the availability of upload and download. So let's talk a little bit about that, because things have changed a lot in the last 3 years. You probably have known that there is download speed. The download speed is usually fairly 100, 200, 300 megabits, but you'll notice that the upload speed is often a lot slower. Now that's not so if you have a fiber optic connection, because it's synchronous. They're both the same. Your upload and download speeds will be the same. So why is it so much different with cable modems? Well, that's because of DOCSIS, and that's the limitation of the software. Because when the software was originally designed, it didn't matter. Most of what we did was downloading. But of course, 3 years ago, when the pandemic hit and we learned about Zoom, we learned about streaming, we learned about communication through the internet. This all made a big difference on how we purchase and the services that we need with our cable companies, because now the upload speed becomes really important. So if you had an old cable package that had only a 5 megabit upload speed, and maybe at the busy times it was even less than that, you will have problems using Zoom and other communication tools, because of course our voice and our speak is being uploaded. So now we have to reassess this, and I'm going to tell you about my personal experience in this area. It's March of 2020. Hewie and I have decided to start Tech for Senior. I just arrived home from Mesa, Arizona. At home, I had a cable package that I'd had for many years. It had 80 megabits down and about 5 megabits up. My cable provider was Shaw Communication, who provide most of the internet service for cable west of Winnipeg in Western Canada. I owned my own cable modem, which I had for many years. And this package with my own cable modem, which I didn't have to pay rent on, and my ancient historic little package for my internet worked well for me at that time. So Hewie and I started Tech for Senior, and the first thing that was really obvious was that this internet package wasn't going to work. The upload speed was way too low for trying to have any effective form of communication. And this, of course, was a big change, because prior to this, really, Zoom, I hadn't heard of Zoom, we hadn't used Zoom, and communication over the internet wasn't this had all changed. So here's a tip. The first tip is that you have to reevaluate old packages that you have. And I was paying a lot of money for something that I could get a much better deal on. So that's the first thing that you have to think about. So I phoned my cable company and asked to have my package upgraded to 300 megabits down and 20 megabits up. I thought this would work very well based on my needs at that time. And they said, that's great, but you have to change your cable modem. Rats, I thought, okay. And of course I had to rent a cable modem for $10 a month. Well, okay, so I need the speed, and in order to effectively create the show, this is something we have to do. So it was. So I said, go ahead, and so my new cable package was implemented. I had the technician come out and install the new cable modem. Was a cable modem router. This, of course, bridged over to my Orbi mesh system, which I was really excited about. And when the technician came to install it, he was a former patient of mine. I looked after their families all, and he said, "Hi, Doc, how you doing?" And he said, "Yeah, you'll be happy with this this new upgrade. And so he installed my new cable modem. And of course, they would bridged it over to my great Orbi mesh router system. So the bridging is something that's important for you to understand, because most of the modems that you purchase today will often be a modem router combination. You can't have two routers on one system because the router defines the IP address or each individual unique device that you have on your network. So you can't have two routers connected because they will both be issuing IP addresses, and your system will get confused, you'll get confused, and everybody will be confused. So when we talk about bridging, what bridging means is the cable company bridges or turns off the router in the router modem combination and then bridges it over to your router. And in my case, it was my Orbi Netgear system. This immediately solved the problem and was great. I had no problem at all. Life was good. We were able to use the Tech for Seniors show. It worked well, except my life changed. And in other words, I ended up being a video editor. I was doing big files and doing a lot of video editing. And this really was going to become my life over the next 2 years. I didn't know it at that time, but that's what it is now. So that prompted the next change. So after doing video editing for 3 months and waiting for 1 gigabit files to upload and download, I thought there's got to be a faster way to do this. So again, I phoned up my cable company and said, I think I want to go from 300 megabit down. I'm going to go up to 600 megabit down. And with that, I think I got about 30 megabits up. They said, no problem. We can easily do that. It's another $10 a month. Everything seems to be $10 a month. So $10 a month, fine. But it required a new modem. So guess what? Yes, the technician comes out again with a new modem. He says, Doc, what's the matter with the last one? I just put it in 3 months ago. And I told him the story, and he said, yep. He said, and I'm sort of sitting there thinking, oh boy, this is going to be great. Not very many people have 600 megabit down. And so I was discussing this with him, and he said, no, I don't put very many of these modems in. And I said, yeah, I know. And he said, because we only use, for the past 3 years, we've only used 1 gigabit modems. I said, what? He says, yeah. He says, nobody uses these. He says, I got a whole truckload of 1 gigabit modems. They all come from Comcast. These are modems, and all the equipment for Shaw Communications is actually purchased from Comcast in the United States. So he said, yeah. He said we use pretty much exclusively 1 gigabit modems now. And I said, well, why would you want to do that? People don't really need that much internet speed. He said, it's called Blue Curve TV. And I said, what? And I sort of heard about Blue Curve TV. It's been around now for quite a while. He says, no, there's no cable needed in your house anymore. It all works from streaming. Really? I said, yep. He says, you don't need any cable connections whatsoever. And this Blue Curve TV can handle up to 8 Xboxes on your network doing 4K simultaneously. It's that fast. I said, well, no, I'm not ready to do that. And just put the modem in you brought. And I want you to, and don't forget to connect my Orbi, my great Orbi mesh system. And he said, oh yeah, we can do that. That's not a problem. But just remember, he said, all these modems that you're buying, the combination cable modem from Comcast, are all mesh routers. And oh, I said, really? He says, yep, you'll be really happy with them. I think they'll work just as well as your Orbi. I said, no, I want to stick with this at the present time. So we installed it, and life was good. I was able to upload and download a lot faster, and it made my life easier in video editing. So in January of 2022 this year, Shaw Communications opened a store in our local mall. It's a big store, lots of splashy events and so on and so forth. And when I'm walking through the mall, I frequently stop in and talk, and I got to know the manager really well. And I'd stop and talk about tech, like like I love to do. So after a while, I went in one day and I said, okay, that's it. I can't get this Blue Curve TV out of my mind. I said, I've got this old system I've had for many years that I bought 15 years ago from the cable company, and it's what I use for my cable TV. So I said, go for it. I've got 6 TVs. Give me a price on putting the Blue Curve TV system in and upgrading to a 1 gigabit system. So he does his little thing on the computer, boop, 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 boop. He says it'll be $10 less a month than you're paying now. What? So guess what? Out the door I went, and the service technician was coming the following week to yet install my 3rd modem router in 6 months to my system. Now, it was not the same, my patient who had done the 2 previous ones. It was a different fella. But anyway, he came in, installed all the equipment, and I now have the new Blue Curve TV. I have a 1 gigabit router, and it cost me actually less than the old equipment that I had. So I have a very fast system now, but it even gets better because about 2 months later, I'm going through the mall again, and again, they had a big sign up, 1.5 gigabit download now. And so I went in and talked to them, and they said, oh yeah, we can do that for you. And I thought, I got to do that because it's going to be faster than Hewie's. And we always are going to have one upmanship there. So anyway, I got the 1.5 gigabit, and no, I didn't need yet a 4th router. So the purpose of talking about this is for you to see the rapid change that is occurring in our existing cable systems. And let me explain why that is so. So let's look at what I've done. Going back to March of 2020, I had my own cable modem and internet package. 2 years later, I've had 3 different modem router combinations, and I've also had 4 different cable packages and a new TV service, all for about the same as I was paying back when I originally started in 2020. All right, let's look at if you are going to purchase your some equipment now and you want to purchase your own modem. So if you go and you look at Best Buy right now and you want to buy a DOCSIS 3.1 modem, you're probably looking at around $300. If you then go over and you want to upgrade your router, and you're maybe looking at a mesh system, and you maybe want something with Wi-Fi 6 on it, the new standard for faster communication, you're probably looking at around $600 or $700. So purchasing this equipment in a rapidly changing environment like we're in now, I think is a bad decision. It's your decision to make, but you're going to be spending a lot of money, and the equipment is changing rapidly. Let's look at why this is happening. All right, why is this all happening? Well, there's this thing called 5G, and this will become the future standard of communication in Canada and the United States. In China, Southeast Asia, and India, they have very well-developed 5G systems, and including China is just installing their 6G system. It's taking a lot longer to implement this in North America than we thought. So the transition into 5G is taking some time. But ultimately, the cable companies will be gone because 5G will be much faster than any data that the cable companies can provide. And they know that because they've all purchased wireless companies and are developing their own systems to integrate into a 5G strategy. So as we move forward into 5G, the cable companies are having to increase their speeds and become more competitive. And this is why there is this rapid change in the speed in which cable companies will be providing their internet. If you have an old package that you've had for many years, like I did 2 years ago, and you're worried about change, I think you're doing yourself a disservice, because this is a rapidly changing field with lots of new packages happening even monthly. So the important takeaway message from this is always check with your cable company to see what services are available, and also look at the speeds that they're offering. Now, this may also involve changing your modem. And in my case, I had 3 modems in 1 year. So you may want to look at this again before you go out to purchase your cable modem. Well, it's Ron Brown with Tech for Senior. If you like this video, I'd sure appreciate it if you'd click that like below. And if you want to be notified every time we make a new video, click that subscribe. And all right, there might be some questions about that. Hewie, are you ready to roll?
I certainly am. Let me do one thing here. Google Maps has historical street view imagery. If you see a clock icon in the upper left-hand portion of a street view image, click on it and move the slider through time and select a thumbnail to see that same place in previous years or seasons. Now with Street View, you can see a landmark's growth. This feature can also serve as a digital timeline of recent history. You can even experience different seasons. You can see the various occupants of storefronts. Let's take a look. This is Google Maps Street View Timeline. I'm Hewie Poplock. I want to show you a few things about Google Maps that you may not be aware of, and something that I use a lot. Let's put an address in our search bar. When I click enter, it gives me some information about that address, but let's go ahead and look at maps. There are a few things I want to show you here that you may not be aware of. One, they show you a picture of the address and maybe some photos of it, a little bit of information. You can click on directions and get directions. You can save this. You can look at nearby items. You can send this to your phone and you can share it. I'm not going to go through those items right now. What I do want to show you is you have the street map here. If you hold it over the red dot, you'll notice over here you can zoom in, you can zoom out. What I want to show you though is this little item down here. And let's go ahead and drag that up to the address. Now as I'm dragging it, you'll see there are some dark blue lines now on several streets. Those are streets that the Google truck or van or whatever the vehicle was going through and taking pictures of. So what we're going to do is look at the pictures that were taken at this address. Here is the address that we want to be at. It's a Peruvian restaurant. Now, there's several things we can do here. One is we have down here the streets, and this is the street view. So if we want to see a larger version of this, we can expand this. And we can see the streets and where we're at. So we can move around to a different location if we want. And we can minimize that. Now, if you'll look up here on the top left, you'll see it shows the address. And it shows something called Street View, and it says March 2021. That's when this picture was taken by the vehicle that Google sends around. If you see here, there's a little clock to the left of that and a down arrow. When you click that, it gives you a whole bunch of previous times. This is what it looked like in 2007. It was a Pizza Hut. And we can move along this timeline. In April of 2011, it had changed and it was a thrift store. And as we move up, we'll just take another one here. July of 2015, it was Leanne's Vietnamese restaurant. And I used to go there when it was a Vietnamese restaurant. And it stayed that for several years. But then in 2019, it changed to the Peruvian restaurant. Now, the other thing that you can do with this, and let's just drive down the street. And you might recognize this as one of the items we're talking about today, which was right down the street from it. But you can just drive and follow the route as it moves. And again, you can look around, and you can then go back as well to the different dates. So those are some things that you can do with Google Maps that I really enjoy and I use a lot. Here is a quick explanation of a few things that I'm showing you. In the lower left, you can see the map, and if you hover over it, you can see the lines that show where the Google vehicles took pictures. If you hold your mouse on the little spot in the middle on the line, you can expand or contract the size of the map. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, you will see an insert that has the address, and then you'll see in the lower part of it, it'll say Street View, and there'll be a little clock there. Next to that clock is a down arrow. When you click it, you will open up what is the timeline. You can move along the timeline to see various times that Google snapped pictures. In the lower right, you'll see where you can zoom in and zoom out, but you can also click the little icon and drag it to the map to go to Street View of that location. In this scenario, we're not at a particular building or a particular address. We're just on a street. What I'd like to do is kind of show you what it looks like. Although it says January 2020, it's pretty much the same now. But we're just looking around 360 degrees. All right, and look at the clock with the Street View, and we're going to click on the clock. We're going to see if we can go back to 2007. Let's go back to 2007 right from the beginning. Let's come all the way here. We click on here, and we can see that this, we can't see the name of that bank. It looks like they're changing the sign right there as we're looking at it. Next door is a Hess station. As we look across the street, there is a Sweet Bay grocery store, and the Burger King is there, which is now, by the way, now closed. Looking at it today, that's Ameris Bank. There's a Waffle House there. There's a Wawa here. Let's go to 2019, February 2019. And Ameris Bank is Fidelity Bank. And there's the Waffle House. As we look across the street, yeah, there's the Wawa, June of 2018. And it was Fidelity Bank. And the Waffle House. And there is a boarded up grocery store. They'd put the fence around, but they hadn't started it yet. Okay. Let's move back. April 2015. It's First Bank. There's no Waffle House. And there's the grocery store. It was changing from a Sweet Bay to a Winn-Dixie. Okay, we're going to come back now to 2011. It's still First Bank. There's a gas station where the Waffle House is. And there's the grocery store in the background. It looks like that was a Sweet Bay. And if we go back to 2008, looks like it's still First Bank, still the gas station, and that's a Sweet Bay, and looks like they had a few cars in front of it. And 2007, that was First Bank as well. There's the gas station was open at that time. There's Sweet Bays. And again, coming back to 2020, which is today, we have a bank, we have a Waffle House, and we have a Wawa. So that area of Cortez Road in Bradenton changed considerably over the past 13 years. Let's take a look at an address that I saw in a news article about a new restaurant opening. When we go to that address and we then go to maps, let's go to the Street View. By going to the Street View, we come down here and we're going to come right up to this area. This is the building that we're looking at. This was in March of 2021. There's going to be a new restaurant in this storefront. But let's take a look at this property and see what else has been here. By doing that, we come up to this window and click on the clock. And you'll see that it has different views. So right now we're in March of 2021. And let's go back to July of 2019. And it was Leaf and Lentil. It was the same restaurant that just recently closed. Let's go back to 2018. It was something else. We zoom in, it was Porky's Fusion Barbecue. And then before that, it was Planter's Palette. You can see it in the title here. And if we come around the corner a little bit and look at it from a different view, we could see the entrance. And let's go back to 2014. It was Bellinona's Bistro. And let's go back to 2011. It was Chips Fresh Mix. And 2011, it was still Chips. And then going back all the way to 2007, it was a Domino's. So it changed hands many times, and it's changing hands again. And we'll come over here and look at it. So it's fun going back and looking to see what was in that same location over the years since 2007. This is the Westin Hotel in downtown Sarasota. Most recently, they're working on the road and building a roundabout right at that intersection. That's why there's construction there. Let's take a look at the clock. And now we can see that we're in this picture was taken in 2021. Let's go back to 2019. You can see the construction wasn't there. There's not much difference in the location. We'll go back to November of 2018. It also looks very similar. June of 2018, they were still working on the outside of the building. Let's go to 2016. The building was under construction. It was a building, it just wasn't completed. As we go back a little bit further, let's go to 2015. Well, they were building the building, but they were only a couple of stories high. That was July of 2015. Let's go to April of 2015. It was only 1 story high. Lots of cranes. Let's go to 2014. And it was a field. It didn't change much from 2007. Let's take a look at that. Again, it was a field. And today. Wait, there's just a little bit more I want to show you. Let's take a look at Lecom Park in downtown Bradenton, Florida. It is a home of the Pittsburgh Pirates spring training and the Bradenton Marauders minor league baseball team. You can move around and do a 360-degree look at all around the area, and you can also zoom in on whatever you're looking at as well. Notice there's a little icon here which tells you what the item is. If we click on that, it opens some information on the left panel, which I showed you briefly at one of the other areas. But you'll notice that it does give you the address, it gives you a website, a phone number, maybe some other information about it. But if you move up here, you'll see there's a photograph. And if you put your mouse over it, it'll show you that how many photos there are. And if you click on it, it will show you photos of the particular location that you're looking at, if there are some available. That's it for Google Maps. I'm Hewie Poplock. There you go.
Pretty cool. That's that's amazing. I bet you they're pulling those off of Google Photos. So we'll ask Chris. Maybe Chris will talk about that later. Anyway, Ray, just before you get up, I want to say goodbye to our friends over on YouTube. We'll be, if you want to pop over and participate in our Q&A, we're certainly got room for you if you want to do that. Otherwise, we'll see you in another week's time. But don't forget our premiere service that will be starting shortly.